Is the firestorm coming? A lot of people are predicting it's been engineered right from the get-go. Welcome to Dave Nottingale. Welcome to the show. There we go.
Yeah.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Like your introduction.
I like that.
Well,
How'd you change your shirt so fast?
Yeah, well, you know that how that goes, and the hat, everything, yeah. So, yeah, so a lot of stuff's happening in your state there, Jennifer.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad I was able to jump on this time. Yeah, the next couple of weeks I'm going to be out of town, but yeah, it's gotten really crazy, and we got a lot going on. I'm about an hour and a half away from the center of LA, from LAX, if there isn't traffic. But we've got a lot of crap going on in Antelope Valley as well, where we've got daily shootings and things like that. So. We don't have these large scale protests up here, but we do have all the criminals. So I would really like to see ICE come up here and take away the people that they got hanging out at the Home Depot and here in our town.
Oh yeah, well every town seems to have that problem, even out here where I'm at. If anybody doesn't know, Jennifer's from California, so Sweet Home California. So that's why I say in her state. Now, I used to be out there. I used to be at California, but now I'm a official Texan. I've got the driver's license to prove it.
All right.
So,
Yeah.
Enjoy that income tax.
Yeah. So now I'm kind of neighbors with Lisa there.
Yeah. Not far. Yeah. I think what Jen's describing is coming our way soon too, Dave.
Oh, it always does.
Yeah.
What happens in California always
money
migrates.
Behind it.
What?
Especially with the money behind it. We were talking about Data Republican, the deaf lady that has been bringing the receipts, working with Doge, and she's been tweeting on X now, where everybody is getting this money from. So they aren't out there firebombing LA just for the heck of it. No, they're doing it because they're getting paid for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got that thing from Data. And you notice, let me see, where is it? Down at the bottom somewhere. The amount of money that was coming in was crazy. Why is this thing so big? I think.
Yeah, this has been definitely planned and organized for a while.
Well, it's not like Trump didn't telegraph that he's going to be doing this. So it's just a matter of when and where, and flip the switch and instant protest.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. But what concerns me is, what Tom Homan said last night, and that is, it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time before somebody, whether it's a protester, whether it's an ICE agent or Homeland Security or whatever, gets hurt. And then that's what I'm concerned about. That's when I think.
Trump,
I think I saw a report.
He got the National Guard out there, lickety split. So.
Oh yeah,
and I think Pete Hegseth has said that the Marines are on high alert. I don't know if they're going to get pulled in or not, but it does look like this is definitely a well-funded.
Oh, definitely.
What
is it? I don't know how you pronounce it. The acronym. It's CHIRLA. Coalition.
I'm calling it CHIRLA. Yeah, I don't know if that's right or not. But I'm calling it CHIRLA.
Okay. Well, they're one of the key ones behind it, and they're the ones that declared like $34 million money from government. Our tax dollars are going through an NGO to this group, and they are actual paid protesters or paid activists. And that's why it didn't just spontaneously happen from a group of people out there complaining.
Well, it does say, what I'm reading here says that while it is believed most of that 34 million came from California, the state of California, and
Yes.
funding,
Yeah.
some of it did come from the federal government. So,
well, yeah, back in Biden days and before Doge, shut things
Mhm.
down.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. There it
Exactly.
is, right there. See that? Government grants, $33,966,000
Wow.
compared to, and that was in 23. So they were ramping up to do something, I guess. I don't know. That says 23 though.
Yeah.
Well, let me give you some good news. Facebook tends to be very liberal, most of the time here. And any group that is talking about these riots in LA that are here in California, there'll be somebody that posts, "This is terrible. Trump is a dictator, and we've got to fight this." But then when you go down into the comments, I got to tell you, the silver lining is that the vast majority of the people responding are telling that original person to go pound sand, and that this is what we want. We want to get rid of the criminal elements out of here, and that cost of living and crime is through the roof in California, and that we're looking forward to having our streets cleaned up.
Yeah, and that's really what we need right now. We need people uniting behind that. Because these people are criminals. They have no rights. They are not U.S. citizens. Therefore, they don't get due process.
The only due process that they need to have is that they are, in fact, who we think they are, and that they're here illegally. Once you determine that they're here illegally, then there's your one-way ticket back to your original place.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the only gray area, because they say, well, because they didn't stop us, we're here legally. That's what a lot of liberals were saying. Well, because they weren't stopped and they were allowed to come into the country, they're not illegal. But yes, they are. And they say, oh no, they're just undocumented.
Yeah, I wish the J6ers had known that, who were allowed to come into the Capitol.
Exactly.
On January 6th.
Right.
Yeah, that argument didn't work for them either.
Great point.
Yeah.
Great point. It's true though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I think it's blatantly obvious to most Americans that have a brain, that right now these are criminals. These are cartel members. These are traffickers. These are, they're not good guys that they're trying to remove. And I think people realize it, especially when it's happening in their community and they've been living with it for years. So,
and they've been excited about seeing them go. And now here's somebody fighting for them to stay. And it's unconscionable because they know what the people are.
Yeah, exactly. And that they're being paid is just, is ridiculous. I mean, but the good part is follow the money, follow who those people are. And I say round them up just like they're rounding up the illegals. Cut the head off the snake.
Yeah, David Republican was also reporting that the group which printed the signs for the protest, professionally printed signs for the protest, is the Party for Socialism and Liberation. They're not a nonprofit. They are a literal communist party.
Yes, I saw that. I forgot all about that. I read that. I actually read that first before I got into it. I'm like, what?
See, here's something else that hasn't been brought up yet, and I doubt very much if the White House is going to talk about it. I was with the guys from the embassy earlier last week, and they've told me something. They said, don't be one bit surprised to see if this isn't going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight for the next 4 years. And it's going to seem like we're getting nowhere. He said, with these people, what's happened is, you wonder where these lists are coming from? There's a list internationally called Interpol. Interpol has international criminals listed on there. Even if you have not been out of the country or in somebody else's country, you still can make it to the Interpol list. And that's where they're pulling most, if not all of them, off the Interpol list for right now. So in other words, if they're looking for Henry Garcia and Susie Quattro, if their name is on that list, then their name is on that list. So in other words, they don't have all the time in the world to be able to, to research everything. But This is what they do. They use the Interpol list, which have fingerprints plus photographs, and this is how they're matching these people up. So most of them have already either been ready to be extradited, or they already have, they've missed their court date. But this whole 9 yards with this, I'm getting a little sick and tired of this. Give them an even break. No, they don't get an even break. In other words, they need to be brought to the border and sent back exactly where they belong. Literally, that's just my opinion for now.
Is there any statistics on the number of people that have taken up Trump's offer to use a CBP One app to self-deport? Because he put that out there that, the benefits are you're going to get a free ticket. You're going to get, I think, like $1,000 per person or something, some sort of spending money to help you with your transition. And you'll be able to legally apply in the future. Whereas if ICE comes and gets them, then they lose their right to try and become a citizen in the future. That seems like a wonderful deal. Has anybody reported on the number of people that have taken Trump up on that?
I don't know if they have, but I do know here in Brazil, we have a lot of people that are quote unquote middle class or above that took the advantage of not having to go through the green card process and have gone to. Most of them are in Florida or else in the Boston area, in Massachusetts. But they have taken and they have come back. We have a couple back here in my little town. We have got a few people that have come back on that program. They've taken the $1,000 plus the airfare, and they've come back. Because what they do is they pretty much, how do I put this? Not everybody went to the Darien Gap. A whole slew of them, I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of them, got on first-class airlines tickets and flew into wherever the hell they wanted to fly into. They were welcomed at the airports. This was a known factor down here in South America. They weren't going to be bothered by anybody. When they got to the desk and said, your passport? I don't have one. Or if they show a passport, well, where's your visa? I don't have one. They were told by Biden's people, let them in, let them go. That's the reason why. That's how Kilmar Garcia got away. That was back in 2021, when he was busted in Tennessee. That's what they're charging him for this time. It's on the record. He was stopped, but yet they got a hold of whoever Interpol, but they got a hold of whoever, and they told the Highway Patrol in Tennessee, let him go. They let him go. They knew exactly what it was. I've seen the video on it. It's unbelievable. He's been trapped.
Local law enforcement too was even threatened to have their federal funding taken away by the Biden administration if they did not, which is exactly what the left is complaining about now by Trump saying, if you don't support the Constitution, we're taking your federal funding. But Biden just did the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Jen, I just looked it up on April 9th this year. Fox News reported that over 5,000 illegal immigrants departed the U.S. voluntarily using that app. That was
April? So we're like 2 months
past that. That was in April, yeah. So, and right now, if you looked it up, AI would be telling you that thousands of illegals have utilized the app to self-deport, but it doesn't say the number. It says it's not specified.
Yeah, well, you know what? See that direct from the White House. I mean, especially the more and more of these very well publicized ICE raids, I would think the more people are going to be like, you know what? I am not going to take my chances. I'm just going to go ahead and get out of here.
Well, and the ones that aren't, per se bad criminals, okay, they don't want to be exploited.
No.
By these people that are funding all of this. They don't want to be responsible for that. They want, a majority of the good people just wanted a chance, in a country that is, in my opinion, obviously the greatest country in the world. So, by Trump coming out and saying, look, whatever, we'll help get you home. And $1,000 in these countries goes a lot farther than it does here.
Sure.
Some of these countries don't even get paid, $20 a year for some of them. But
something else too. A lot of people aren't taking into account. They're talking about, they deserve to have a chance. They need a break and whatever. And we keep on throwing back at them. Hey, look, there's only so many people can come in at one time. Take a look at World War II. I know this is a fact. My parents, or my adopted parents, they came from Vienna, Austria. They applied to get away from Adolf Hitler and the concentration camps. My father was in a concentration camp. He was there. He'd been there for already 45 days. It cost my mother approximately the equivalent of maybe $20,000 American money that she had gotten from her father-in-law, which had been my grandfather. And they would not permit the two of them to come into America yet. And he was on the run from the Nazis. On the run. They had to go to Shanghai. That's where they ended up, is in Shanghai. And they had to wait it out for 6 more months until they were permitted to come into Ellis Island. So when these people want to sit there and talk about, well, we're already here and we were having it so hard, I don't want to hear that. Because like I said, I know what my parents went through. And, it's just something about they did it legally. And even like with my wife. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could have gone there, of course, I had tough time getting airfare tickets to get back to the United States, but still just the same. Can't get back. But if I would have gotten back there, I would have done it legally. I still would not have done it illegally. Right. I mean, there's just certain thing if you got morals and what have you. And I worked for the government for almost 30 years.
And you know what? As Americans, we have the biggest hearts. We're not against human nature. We're not against humanity. I mean, we want to welcome people that want to come, but they got to do it the right way. I mean, plain and simple. And, right now, all that Trump is trying to do is protect our nation and get the bad guys out.
Yeah.
That just pretty much put it back the way it's supposed to be. But yeah, I mean, you just can't let anybody in your country. You got rules. That's why you're supposed to be vetted before you come into our country. Mm-hmm. That's the whole purpose behind it.
My great-grandmother-in-law was not allowed into the United States because she had weepy eyes, and they were afraid that she might have red eye. It was a huge story. It was in 1917. They came from Russia, crossed over a frozen river, spent some time in China. My mother-in-law's mom at 10 years old was cleaning houses in China so that they could save up money to make it over to the United States. They weren't allowed in because her mom had weepy eyes. They went to Paraguay. Paraguay would accept them. And they were there for like another 10, 15 years before then the next generation finally made it into the United States legally. So my mother-in-law was born in Paraguay, and she didn't come into the States until she was like 12 or 16. So it was a
part of the American.
That was the way that it went. You followed the rules.
It's the way it was. It's the way it should be. That's the way it is. I mean,
they worked every day of their lives. They did not take any government subsidies.
Mm-hmm. Now, I think we'd all love to see the system become easier to get into America, become streamlined and less cumbersome, so that people like, people like John's family could have come in when they needed to. We'd all love to see that. But before that happens, we need to make sure the ones who are already here that were never vetted and were let in when they had diseases and were not asked for to take vaccines or do anything else, they end up going back out for the health and benefit of the communities that are already here, because that's who our government is supposed to be protecting and taking care of, is the people who live here already.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And essentially that is what Trump's doing.
I see today Maxine Waters attempted to pull her congressional authority to get into a federal building where they're holding that President David, how do you say his last name? Huerta? H-U-R.
The union president?
Yeah, Huerta.
Yeah, the SEIU president. He got arrested. And so she tried to use her authority to get in the building, and they told her nope, and they slammed the door and locked her out. And she's getting upset because she has the power to be able to go in there. But then I read a little bit further. They have to give, in order to do that, they have to have an advance warning. So
advance notice, like they happened in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
He was out there helping support. He was supporting what they were doing out there, it says.
I seem
as
to
part of the
remember,
rioters.
even with advance warning, that there were certain members of Congress, like Marjorie Taylor Greene and a few others, who were denied access to the federal prison where
with
J6 prisoners were being held.
and
That's
they had
right.
advance one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
So
their
did
number,
that ever go anywhere? Did anybody fix that? I don't know.
there's lawsuits right now. That's about it, and probably investigations still ongoing with it.
Yeah.
But I think you know, I think with the heightened sensitivity right now, with the paid riot starting and all of that, timing on from anybody in Congress is going to be watched very carefully, because at this point it's just too sensitive to allow people like Maxine Waters to get out there for a photo op. I mean,
Which is exactly why she is there for a photo op.
Of course.
Which she got.
Well, Maxine Waters just got nailed again for that for campaign violations again. They don't post that stuff up there. I put a video up about it today, and it's unbelievable. This is, I think, the third time this year that they've come up with something on her, and she just gets a slap on the wrist. It's getting a little sick and tired of all this.
Yeah. Oh, is this it?
Oh yeah, this is at the protest. Oh, there she is.
The governor was not contacted. This is Trump and his outrageous attempt to not only target our sanctuary city, but to frighten us and intimidate us. This is wrong, and I hope that none of you will use those guns to shoot anybody. There's no reason
She's talking to the National
to
Guard.
shoot anybody. Don't allow them.
I'm sorry, you're not in their chain of command, lady.
Yeah.
Maxine Waters is not worth the price of a bullet.
Thank you.
She's quietly saying she's loudly saying the quiet part out loud. That's what they're wishing for. They want one of those National Guardsmen to mess up, and accidentally shoot a protester.
That's right. That's what they're hoping for. Kent University all over again. Only that was with National Guard.
Well, they said that they're going to be out there. They're going to be called up for like 60 days. So that's what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time for mistakes to happen.
And it should be noted that some of the same pockets that were funding the campus takeovers at Columbia University is also funding this.
Why am I not surprised?
Right.
Yeah. Anybody heard the name Neville Singham?
Yes.
Yeah, that is what Data Republican was reporting. He's a socialist billionaire and known financier of Chinese propaganda efforts abroad. He's funneled over 20 million into radical groups, including the ones that were involved in the recent campus takeovers at Columbia University.
Yeah,
and by the way, there's also the group behind the Los Angeles ICE riots endorsed Adam Schiff's Senate campaign. Anybody surprised at that either?
Right.
No.
It's not going to be, LA is just the start. There's pockets of these guys everywhere.
I'm hoping this is just going to continue the red pilling of California. I don't know if you all watch Carl DeMaio on Reform California, but we're super minority in California for the state legislature, both houses. The Democrats just will not even bring Republican bills to the floor for a vote. And everything gets killed in committee. So they'll just point and say, "Oh, the Republicans have no answers. They have no solutions." Well, yeah, because you're not bringing any of their bills to the floor.
Exactly.
But anyhow, more and more people, though, are supporting Republicans here in California. And the more this gets on TV with them acting the fool in Los Angeles and anywhere else, I think it's just going to hopefully, I'm praying will work against them.
Well, I predicted that California was going to flip over and become more conservative as the spending and everything else gets so out of hand. All the regulations that drove big companies out of there because they just can't afford to keep up. There's so many layers, and people leaving California, they're not going to have enough money coming in to sustain what they're doing. So the obvious thing is, we got to tighten the belt. Well, tightening the belt is kind of a conservative move. Right. And then the conservative thought process will start kicking in. And I just think that, eventually California will become a conservative state again. It's going to take a while. Took a while to get messed up.
It's going to be very expensive, for those of us that are still here in California. The insurance rates are going up. State Farm asked for like an extra 17% on insurance premiums, and they want to increase gasoline tax and then add a mileage tax because we have too many electric vehicles.
Know anybody that owns one?
Which is just another way of saying they get you going and coming.
Exactly. Right. And then the illegals, we do the Medi-Cal is Medicare at the state level, and they are allowing the illegals to be on the state Medi-Cal program. But they were hoping they could get the federal government to pay for it. Well, they were for several years, but now they're not. And so now we're short $9.5 billion in California, and it's directly tied to illegals being allowed to get free health care in California.
Well, I kind of thought it crept up to about 12, but
it may be, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's crazy.
And our hospitals are completely overrun. We've had to use it a couple of times here. With my father-in-law occasionally has had some falls, and we go into the emergency room, and it is hours and hours and hours that we have to go through that because there are so many things going on and there's so many people, and that's their only health care going through the emergency room.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
so what do you suppose they're paying these people out here? Let me put this up here.
I don't know that they are necessarily paying the individuals that are in the road. They may be
probably group leaders.
I think the money is the leaders and paying
the
for
group leaders.
those professional signs and busing people there.
Yeah, and then a bunch of other people
paying for that. Yeah.
See what she has to say.
Center. Most of those demonstrators were very peaceful. They were chanting, they were shouting.
Peaceful.
People were driving
they're doing it again.
And again, they were expressing their anger about the detention.
At least they don't have the fire in the background in this shot.
Oh, they did. There was, I think, for there was an ABC reporter who was right next to a burning car when she was saying the same thing. Yeah.
Started begging
like, don't believe your lying
eyes. Shortly after all that happened, the agents started firing off tear gas, and then they came out.
Yeah, mostly peaceful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why tear gas is needed.
Right.
It's so peaceful.
And why things are burning.
But it didn't get rowdy until we shut off the tear gas, right?
Yeah, I think that there's organizers, I was watching some of the live footage earlier and at the detention center there. And you can notice if you look at the crowd, there's the standard people that have their own written signs. Then there's the other people that have
professional signs,
professional things, but they have nice gas masks, black helmets, I mean, they're you can tell that they're together.
First rodeo.
Right. Right. So those, to me, those are the ones that are getting paid. The guys who made their own sign. I think there's just some people out there that just want attention. For the wrong reasons.
Well, before we're about, we're into our half hour, so we'll just let it go as long as it goes. But I want to talk to you about an experience you had back east. You went to DC.
Yeah.
Tell everybody what happened.
crazy. I went to DC to visit my sister and family, and one of the things we did was take a little girls trip, just me, my sister, and my niece. We took the Amtrak from Richmond to Washington, D.C. Well, one of the things we wanted to do was take her to the zoo, right? So here we are, at the zoo. It's raining on and off. At this point, my sister and I are soaking wet. We really don't care. It wasn't cold out then, so it was fine. And we're just going around, and they decided they wanted to go into the gift shop. I stayed outside, and my husband called me to check in. I was on the phone with my husband. All of a sudden, about, I don't know, 30, 40 people just come running down the hill, booking it. And I'm like, what is going on? And they start yelling active shooter. And I'm like, I gotta go. So I go in the
you didn't know you could run that fast, right?
Oh, I didn't run, which is funny. But yeah, I calmly went in the gift shop where my sister and my niece were. And at that point, the gift shop people were like, everybody get down, stay back here. And they were saying that there's a possible active shooter. So the gift shop's all glass. And I'm like, great, So you could see the people came running down. We went in the gift shop. A bunch of people were, coming in. And you could see the police in the cars literally driving where you walk in the zoo, going up this hill. Oh. And as soon as the police passed, I looked at my sister. I said, this is not safe. This is not safe. I do not like it. Like, if I had to pick someplace, I felt like a fish in a fishbowl. Okay. So I got her and my niece. I said, let's go the other way. Well, and so we left and went behind. Yeah, we went behind like the walls and stuff like that, to keep at least something, guiding us. Well, the first place we come across that's a big building was the first aid station, which is also the little police security unit building. And when we were approaching it, one of the officers opened the door and said, get in. So we got in, and then we looked behind us, and there's like 30 more people running, and with kids and everything. So my sister got my niece in there. I helped the security guard, help everybody, because there's strollers and everything. And then my sister, when we came in, there was a room with double wall, and one of them was brick. So we put all the kids in that area. And then all the adults kind of like stood around that area. Yeah. I sat in the window because I wanted to know what's going on. I mean, if somebody's coming, I want to know, because there's a back door, right? Mm-hmm. So I kind of described to everybody what I could see, and it was just more police and more police. Well, we were in there. We were locked down. The whole zoo was locked down for about 45 minutes. And then you could see the police start coming down. I saw a cop car go by, and you could see that there was somebody in the back, but I couldn't see like who it was. And at that point, the security guy said, okay, let's go ahead and start getting everybody, out of the zoo. So we start walking towards the exit. And of course, I'm like, what happened? What is going on? Because the number one thing I kept telling my sisters, I heard no gunshots. I mean, the zoo is big, but it's intertwined, so if guns start going off, you're going to hear something. And well, it turns out it ended up being a fight. And one of the people that got in the fight had a weapon on them. And it fell out. So
one thing led to another. Yeah.
So, and especially in DC right now, having a weapon is like, no. But I've never felt more naked in my life. Like, thinking there's an active shooter and I have nothing to defend myself.
Yeah.
It was trippy. It was really trippy. Thank God it wasn't real.
Yeah, well, we're glad that it wasn't real and that you made it back.
Yeah.
Scary.
you never know how you're going to react until you're in one of those situations. And honestly, I mean, I'm pretty proud of my sister and I. We stayed calm. It didn't hit us until later that night, honestly.
Yeah, later on you fall apart.
Yeah.
We had your niece with you, so you kind of had to.
Once we got out of the zoo, I was like, well, what do you want to do? And she's like, let's just go back to the hotel and have a cocktail. I said, sounds good to me. So we did a cheap dinner and some wine, and we were good after that. But yeah, it was definitely, like I said, I mean, it was neat to see, though. The zoo handled it very well, I think. I was really impressed with how DC Zoo handled it. They were on top of it. They were polite. They weren't, you know what I mean? It wasn't chaotic, except for the people running. But that was just people's human nature.
Well, everybody was assuming the worst,
Yeah.
So I don't blame them. All right.
Yeah. But I want to know who's the idiot who started this rumor.
Anything exciting happening in your life, Nina?
Oh, goodness.
Seems like you've been doing a lot of taking care of people, haven't you?
Yeah. I was taking care of my brother who was having cancer treatment. I think I told you before he had a cancerous tumor in his upper palate of his mouth, and it went into the bone. He ended up having to lose the entire upper palate, but they took the fibula out of one of his legs and used that to refashion an upper palate for him and some tissue from that same leg. And I mean, honest to goodness, he does have some scars, where they did the surgery, but it looks like it's going to heal great. And I don't think you're going to even be able to tell very much.
Wow.
It's amazing.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's astonishing. Yeah. But no, he's gone back to his home in Tennessee now. He's going to do radiation there. So he's still got radiation to go through. Still appreciate prayers for him.
Absolutely.
And I took a little vacation to Maryville, Tennessee with a friend this past week just to get out of the apartment because I had been here for so long, taking care of him. So that was great just to get out in the mountains and the hills of Tennessee and, relax and just enjoy being out in the country.
Yeah. And then
I'm
Jennifer,
glad he's doing good.
Jennifer, you've been camping or something, haven't you?
Yeah, and we've got another camping trip coming up. We've been having some trials and tribulations with our camper. It's a 2006 model, so there's bound to be some things wrong with it. And right now, it's the landing gear. It does the click, 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 click when we're trying to raise it up. And so last couple of times we've been bringing the a jack and trying to help that up, and so this time around we just took it all apart and we're trying to fix the actual problem, so see if our fix holds. We're going to Yosemite on Thursday. We'll be gone for about a week or so.
All right.
Fun.
Well, mine's a 2007, and we've been all over the United States for 2 years, and I kept waiting for something to break the whole time.
Well, the thing is that the quality of build was probably a bit better than if you
back
thought.
then. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This thing is solid. It's just some of these mechanical motor things. It's just,
But I've run into a lot of people that have 2022s, 21s, even 20, and then nothing but problems. Things falling apart, the roofs leak. I mean, oh my goodness.
One of our sons has that exact problem. Yeah. He bought it brand new, and we were like,
Yeah. Well, especially during COVID,
they couldn't get them out fast enough.
They were half built, then the factories closed down, then only certain people came back, and so they had to do a lot of retraining. They didn't even know where they kind of left off on each thing, so stuff got missed. I think that was most of it, but
that makes sense.
It is what it is. Well, I want to thank you guys for dropping in. Thank everybody there in the comments for getting involved and commenting, and we'll see you next week. Oh, John, John.
And I got a question too. After John speaks, I got a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Go, John.
John.
What?
What are you doing?
What are you up to?
I forgot you. I don't know. You're here every week.
I could answer.
So.
I did it for the last 6 years. I've been absolutely up to nothing. Just praying to one of these days I can hit some kind of a lottery's going to come my way so I can get back home to America. But no, there's nothing really much going on down here at all. I mean, it's just there's an election coming up next year for the president here, but not much is really being said. It's going to be that Supreme Court justice who pretty much rules the entire country of Brazil. It's kind of like we talk about Roberts in America. Well, literally, this guy is the Roberts of Brazil, but he's got the power of Donald Trump. So
Wow.
that's the problem. Yeah, he's got the problems. He doesn't want Lula to come back, and he certainly does not want to. They're still playing games with Bolsonaro. They're threatening to put him into prison.
Yeah, I've heard that.
This is after 4 years. They've been doing this every year. Every time that there gets to be a rally for him, because of the presidency, he's made it sure that Bolsonaro is not allowed to run for president until the year 2030. But that's not, and even then, to be perfectly honest with you, Bolsonaro's, how do I put it? He is really, he's not a communist. He's not a socialist, but yet he's nowhere near what Trump is. Nowhere near. He's just another one of those. He's Mr. Happy-go-lucky with the population loves him, but he doesn't get anything done.
But not
That's exactly what he is.
Yeah.
Right. So,
I kind of gathered that, but I see it.
Yeah.
I want to know, the question I had before we go is, what is everybody's hot take on the Trump and Musk thing? Is this?
Well, who wants to go first?
I'll go first on this because we had to tell Dave. I saw something earlier today, and what it said was that there is a third party involved in this. Now, there's somebody in Trump's staff. I can't remember the guy's name, but he has been a pain in everybody's side ever since just before the election. And he goes to Trump and he says certain things like, Elon did this, 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 and this. And then he'd go to Elon and go, Trump said this, this, this about you. And supposedly he is the guy that hit one punch that hit Elon and gave him a black eye. Because I don't know if you guys saw that in one of the pictures. Elon had a black eye.
Yeah,
so supposedly, right. So in other words, this supposedly because what Elon wrote is absolutely so far out of context. I mean, you can be mad. That's something you do as a child. You write something that bad. I mean, he really must have been pissed off. So this is only what I've heard. It's still rumor, but that's what I think it is. I have a feeling the two of them are going to make up on this because they really need to make up on this. I mean, both of them. America needs both of them together because the space program is very important for our future, and Tesla is important to America too because it's not going to only be Ford and Chevrolet and whatever. But this is what I only heard about. Like I said, there's a third party involved in this, and it'll probably come out pretty soon. So we'll have to see what happens. That's my 2 cents.
That third party needs to be shown the door.
Well, I would say that continuing on what you're saying. Both of them are very stubborn, but I think Trump is more stubborn than Elon. Elon is flippant, but that's part of his regular demeanor, his condition. He doesn't relate emotionally like everybody else because of his condition. But one thing he does do, though, is he puts stuff out, asks people what they think, and he sits back and he weighs the answers. So that's why I think if enough people go, hey, Elon, you need to calm down. That's not right, whatever, which I see a lot of it, that Elon would probably say, well, okay, because he did back off and say that he's not going to cancel the spaceships and stuff, so he kind of backed off on that. But then I heard Trump kind of bash, like Trump is not going to let it go. So that's why I'm saying I think Trump is going to be the hard one to, because even his advisors, will he listen to his advisors saying, hey, you need to tone this down, make up,
Take a look at all the people Trump has bashed and he is now allied with. and gets
Yeah.
along with. So
Mm-hmm.
now if Elon can swallow his pride, then I think they will make up again. But here's another thought though, and this is what I was kind of wondering, is that maybe this was a whole planned out thing to help
Yeah, that's
Elon,
it.
because
Mm-hmm.
you
I
know
thought of that too.
his business
Yeah.
has taken a beating. And
Don't,
you know,
right.
they were saying that, you know, Trump was doing all this because, you know, Elon is in his ear and Elon's the co-president and all this. And well, this pretty much, you know, does away with Elon being co-president.
So the liberals bounce back
Nothing
and
that
forth.
helps Elon is in
Good guy,
that
bad guy.
big beautiful bill. And so
Yeah.
this is maybe just a way of allowing Elon to be able to get back to selling cars to the liberals.
Well, and I'm wondering, because Steve Bannon was saying that an altercation actually took place between
Yes.
Elon and Scott Bessent.
That's the
as
name.
they were, right after they were
Scott
leaving.
Bessent? Isn't he
Yes,
the
Yes.
Treasury guy? He's
Yes.
the Treasury guy.
yes,
Secretary
That's the
of
guy. That's the
Treasury.
name.
yeah. So
Wow,
apparently,
okay,
they
I'd be very
each
sure
had
that
their
guy.
own. They each had their own candidate for the head of the IRS, and kind of as
Maybe
an
that's the
interim
two.
move, Trump had gone with who Elon wanted to put out. But then it was just interim, and he had both of them into the Oval Office this is what Bannon is saying, had both of them into the Oval Office to make their case, each for their own candidate. And in the end, Trump decided to go with Scott Bessent's candidate for the IRS. And then as they were leaving the Oval Office, apparently some insults were exchanged. And Bannon says that Scott Bessent told Elon, hey, you're an absolute fraud because you said you were going to find $1 trillion in waste, and you haven't even found anywhere close to that. And then he said there was an altercation, and that's where Elon got his black eye. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. Caroline Levitt was asked about it. Maria Bartiromo.
Well, and you know, Steve Bannon doesn't have anything
really
to
pressed her.
Yeah.
And she was saying, I wouldn't describe it as a fist fight. I would describe it as a disagreement, but she admitted she wasn't there when it happened. So
yeah, that's the name that I recall hearing. That name. That was the name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know,
But at the same point, Steve Bannon's never liked Elon and the Doge thing. I mean, he'd always spoke out against it. So
yeah,
and
I just looked that up, and it's on New York Post, the Fox News, Times of Israel, Daily Beast.
Doge
is
Elon's baby, and he went through so much over the past few months to do this.
Right.
So when you're dealing with somebody like Elon, his work is very important to him and personal. You know, it's like a child. And when somebody like Scott Bessent comes out against him and this child and all of that, it's like calling your baby ugly. You know, I mean, honestly. So whatever the altercation was, it's not appropriate. And I think I think Trump and Elon are fine. I think there's some games being played here, seeing who stands where and what. And I think in the long run, I think Elon and Trump will still be standing, and Bessent might not. Just my because now the Democrats
highly of Bessent so far with everything that he's been doing with. I thought he was doing a good job, but wow,
there's something about him that I don't. And this was before all this, but here's the other interesting factor: that tweet that Elon put out and then deleted about Trump and the Epstein list. Now we have Democrats wanting to see the Epstein list. Come on. You know, I mean, that's what makes me think, wait a minute.
Well, and you know what? Epstein's lead attorney came out and said, I can tell you unequivocally, because I asked Epstein, you know, what do you have on Trump? And He said there was nothing, absolutely nothing. And if there had been, they would have used it already.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think this is another troll.
Yeah. I think so
But
too.
yeah, but it's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, but
I did see where there was a reporter asking Trump about the feud between him and Elon, and if they were going to, there'd been a report, I think, that maybe they might be meeting in the Oval Office soon to, I think Stephen Miller was going to try and get them together to kind of mend fences and so forth. But Trump didn't seem very interested. He was like, yeah, no, I think he's going to let Elon cool his heels a little bit.
Yeah, well, when with people like, example, like Elon, my nephew has Asperger's, and I'll just give you a little bit of an example. I once told him to throw the trash out, and he said, where? And I said, out, because the garbage cans were out front. I said, out front. He opened the front door and he threw the trash can out in the front yard. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if Trump understands that when you work with somebody like Elon, you have to be very specific sometimes. Mm-hmm. So maybe there's a little reality there, but yeah, that's just what I think about when I think if there is any little bit of feud and Trump needing to let Elon cool, they may have told him, go scorched earth, and they didn't mean on him, on Trump.
Well, see, if we're talking about it, and we're going into overtime, so I don't care as long as you guys don't care. If the big, beautiful bill had a lot of stuff in there that I think was, how they attach a lot of things to help appease some of the other people, and maybe not necessarily the Democrats, but there's kind of a division in the Republican Party and the supposedly MAGA, and so to get it passed, do you think that why he left certain things in that got a lot of people upset, not just Musk? Mm-hmm. Do you think that is what's behind making it a little more bloated than it probably should have been?
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's it. The Democrats, not a single one of them is going to break ranks unless you've got
even if they liked it, they would.
Yeah, exactly. So
I can't remember his name, but
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I can't remember his name, but I was reading an opinion piece by a guy just the other day that was talking about that very thing. And he said, here is the thing that we all hate about Republicans. Democrats are really off the wall and nobody wants the stuff that they're putting in. But when they get into office, when they have power, they work like a fury and get things done so that even when they get voted out, as they know they will, they're playing the long game here. When they get voted out, those things are still in place. And they stay in place
until the Democrats
get back in again. But the Republicans don't do that. The Republicans are far more, dare I say it, conservative. And when they get into office, they're nervous about getting voted out of office. They don't want to get voted out, and they say, "Oh, it's the only way we can get anything done."
But at the same time,
voted out. I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I want to point out: look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was voted back into office, even though she is a firebrand. And she's and Trump is the same thing. They're exactly what everybody who has been supporting conservative causes and Republicans for
Matt
years
Gaetz too. Matt Gaetz was voted back in even after everything.
We want people who are getting something done, who will go in and not worry about whether or not they're going to get voted back in. They're going to be statesmen and actually get something done.
They have a different reason for why they're there.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the problem with that, though, is the way it all runs and how much money you have to, once you're in, not only the money that you have to borrow to run, to win, that you're beholden by before you even get into office, you're beholden to people, you owe people. And then once you're in, the money it costs to get on these committees or whatever, to do anything, you're owned by people then. And that's, I think, the biggest issue we have when it comes to this stuff. this stuff needs to stop as far as, because that's how they're controlling everyone, is because in order to get anything done or to get any bills in there or whatever, it costs money. And I think that's ridiculous. That's not what it's supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think
The
that's,
other thing I was thinking about, if the bill gets passed with all these provisions for money, they've also discovered that they can cancel contracts after the fact.
Right. That's the rescission thing. So that's the next part. And I don't think Elon really understood that. That is still coming, cutting all these things. And then the other thing is that the CBO, they're the ones that say how much the bill is going to cost. The CBO, they keep calling it nonpartisan, but it's like 85% Democrat. They get it wrong all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Anytime it's a tax cut, they call it a cost instead of what it actually is. It brings more revenue in, but they insist on saying it's going to be a cost. And then when they, like when the Democrats put in a tax increase, they're like, oh, well, that's more revenue. No, we're not going to get nearly as much revenue as the CBO says, because people are no longer incentivized to work. So, and then the tariffs are another thing that I don't think are fully being accounted for. So all of these fiscal conservative hawks or whatever that are saying, I don't want to vote for it because it raises the debt limit, they need to vote for it, because CBO is wrong and they're giving them way too much credit.
Yeah. And I think, you got to, at this point, I think, it's still politics. There's still politics involved. And if we're going to keep moving forward, we've got to take some wins with some losses. As long as the wins are bigger than the losses, I'm okay with it. Now that's not forever.
Yeah.
But
and everybody's saying, well, what about this Elon Musk and so on? Do you still support Trump? Well, hell yes, of course. Nothing's changed. Just those two, so it's funny the questions and from your, because I have a lot of liberal friends, from California.
Yeah.
And so they like to throw stuff in my face when stuff like this happens. So
yeah, just remember somebody called Elon's baby ugly, and it kind of puts it in perspective.
I actually think that Greg Gutfeld on Fox News had a great response to the spat between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. He simply said, "Knock it off." I'm like, that's what I want to say. Hey guys, knock it off.
Don't make me stop the car.
That's right.
Okay,
come back there.
Are you guys all done? We've almost done an hour now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're done.
Well,
it's great.
So originally it was a half-hour show, but it always goes over. When William's on here, it always goes over an hour. So.
Well, you know what? You do that so regularly. I didn't know this was a half-hour show.
I didn't know that either.
I didn't either. So
Juan and I started it as a half-hour show, but I don't care if it's over. But I do tell my wife I won't let it go over an hour, just because
Yeah, I gotta get dinner started now. So
me too.
Okay, guys. Well, I appreciate you coming in.
Good to see y'all.
Stick around for 2 seconds after the outro, just in case we have to say something before we leave. And we'll see you on the next one. All righty. Bye-bye.